that in mind.
Yeah, I can't see the chat room, so I don't know where that is.
Okay.
It's on Facebook?
It's on YouTube. So if you want to pull up my YouTube page,
okay,
that's where you would see it.
All right, let me have a look.
And it looks like we're live.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for bearing with us tonight. We got a little bit of a slow start, or a late start rather, but we're here. Hi. I know we have a few friends in the chat room already. I'm just gonna say hi. We've got Stacy. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Lizzie. And we've got Suzanne, and I know Dexter's listening. And I'm sure more people will be coming on now that we've gone live. How are you doing, Sebastian?
I'm doing great, Sherry. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm just trying to access the YouTube channel. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, no hurries. Take your time. Today has been a crazy day. For me, especially. How's your day been?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So I had to actually switch off the YouTube channel because of the delay. I was hearing your voice with a delay as well. So I would try to cope without it.
You can mute the tab in your web browser so you don't hear anything coming from your web browser.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
However, I can just read the questions to you.
That would work.
Okay.
Without further ado.
Without further ado. Well, Mercury's still in retrograde, so I think we're all feeling the effects of that a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's going out on like the 28th or something. So looking forward to that. Yeah, so it's really good to see you. It's great to have you on the show. I've been threatening you as a guest to come on my show for about 2 years.
That's true. That is true.
Finally, you're here.
No, it's not so much of a threat, but we are both very busy and trying to find the right time and the right opportunity. I think it all play out nicely tonight. I think I have a very good feeling about what's going to happen, what we'll be sharing. And the questions that will be, coming from you, no pressure.
Well, my questions are going to be all metaphysical and less scientific. So
that's all right. No worries.
So yeah, thank you so much. So for all the guests and the friends in the chat room, I met Sebastian 2 years ago at Contact in the Desert. And we were introduced by someone I had also just met there, Trisha McCannon. And, she was like, here, you guys need to talk. And then, we just ended up kind of hanging out for the rest of the weekend. And, we had some friends with us as well. And, it was a really wonderful experience. And then we just kind of kept in touch. And,
the rest is history.
The rest is history. So I'm going to read your bio really quick, Sebastian, for the people who don't know you. And but I'm sure most people in our audience know you. So here we go. Sebastian, born in France, Sebastien Martin is a Canadian serial entrepreneur that built an internationally acclaimed health food brand. At the peak of his success, Sebastian had a close encounter of a fifth kind with a stellar being from a fifth dimensional reality. While sitting in his living room, the being opened communications with him and the rest of his star family. He continues to receive frequent and powerful downloads, all aimed at raising consciousness. This unique and disturbing experience compelled Sebastian to seek the support of a hypnotherapist, to help him deal with the anxiety arising from this encounter and the prophetic visions he had experienced since childhood. These sessions generated detailed memories of a Galactic Alliance agenda, split souls, human consciousness, and much more. Recent visits involving 11th dimensional beings have reinforced Sebastian's beliefs that he must pursue a mission of discovery and to share it with the public. Since the period of his initial interviews in 2016, Sebastian has developed new faculties that excel in the field of remote viewing. This has led him to discover an agenda larger than he anticipated, one involving the Men in Black, the secret space program, as well as an understanding of very old technologies, such as stargates and portals, recently discovered on Earth. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a journey there.
Hard to cover in 2 hours.
I know, exactly. You know, it's so funny because of all the guests I've had on my show, I've been like, where do I even start with this question? Because I know a lot of your stories and, you know, they're all wonderful and fascinating, and it's really, you know, hard to cover everything, but I do have questions, so you know we can just go through it organically, and I'm not going to be, you know, super rigid if you kind of feel called to talk about something really specific.
That's okay. I'll go with the flow, whatever you like.
Awesome. So just kind of starting out at the beginning, you know, you are a successful entrepreneur, and you sold your business, and you kind of like, you know, headed more into this field of the unknown, shall we call it. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, like, how do you go from being an entrepreneur to a person who's suddenly like interested in consciousness, remote viewing, and the Ascension? I mean, those are just two totally different worlds, right? So can you share a little bit about that transition phase of your life?
Yes, well, that's a very good point. You know, for me, it was day and night. I mean, basically, I was involved in the day-to-day operations of my business. It was a multinational, and I had no time for consciousness topics. I was just working day and night, basically trying to grow my business. And all I was thinking of is the dollar value, pretty much living in a 3D reality and not knowing about anything else. And not caring about anything else either. I mean, it was pretty much down to earth. Anything to do with the consciousness movement was like swimming with dolphins for me. It was far beyond, you know, what I really cared about. It's just, you know, I had zero interest in it whatsoever. I had no verbiage to be associating myself with this. So when I had my own experience, I had to learn the words, and I still don't know all the words, obviously, but because of my experiences, I could describe what I was experiencing, and therefore some people that were already involved in that movement kind of told me what I was experiencing. That's how, you know, I kind of learned, because I don't even read books still today. I don't read books about this topic. I feel like my experiences are the most interesting experiences I could have, and without diluting the experiences or trying to change the meaning of them by reading something that may be associated with them, I just decide to learn from these experiences and grow from that, rather than trying to say, well, those kind of, let's say, for example, the Kundalini energy. You know, what is Kundalini energy? When you look at that, you know, you think, well, it should be a fairly simple thing, you know. It's just Kundalini, right? Let's do Kundalini yoga, and we can get the gist of Kundalini energy. It doesn't quite work that way. I mean, it's so secretive in a way, and I think it's been buried in religions and societies that basically the meaning of Kundalini has been transformed over time. And the true meaning of Kundalini is in the experience of the individual, that can connect to the universe and the energy of the universe, and try to make, basically have a connection with the source, and trying to embrace that knowledge, which basically becomes universal knowledge, and it becomes like a massive download that you get right away, and it's a knowing. It's that you know what to do with it. It's how to describe, it's how to write about it, because these emotions and those feelings are so broad that you can't express it you can't put it in writing. You only have to experience it. It's like dying. How can you write about death, if you don't experience it? Sure, you can say someone dies and that's it. That's the end. It's not like that. You truly have to experience the Kundalini energy to understand what it means. It's not just, and it varies. People have various experiences with it. So again, I'm going off topic here. Going back to the business I was involved in, I'm still involved in that business, by the way. So I've not dissociated myself from the 3D reality either. I have a wife who kind of lives in that 3D reality. That's her journey, and she makes sure of it, that I remain in that 3D reality day by day. So it's a good thing.
It's good because she keeps you grounded.
Right, exactly. You need to be grounded in order to, and I acknowledge her in my book as well, because it is important not to lose track with the different dimensions that we live in. It's not a curse. It's not like a prison planet the way we say it, or we describe, or I've read about, or watched online. It's a blessing. Every experience is a blessing. You just have to accept them as a positive, not as a negative, because you can learn from all of these experiences. 3D, 4D, 5D, doesn't matter what it is. We all live within a complex multiplicity of experiences and realities in the universe, and it goes on to infinity. So, we are just only a fragment of information and knowledge in that consciousness realm. It's just, we have no idea what it's like to experience these multitudes of experiences in the cosmos.
Right. And for you, it happened kind of spontaneously when you were at work. Can you share a little bit about how you'd be at work, and then you would start seeing, well, maybe you should talk about Zor first, because he kind of followed you to work, right?
So my first experience, I think, again, I talked about this topic many times, so I would kind of fly over this topic very quickly. Sure. But back in 2011, I had a first encounter with an alien being that named himself Zor, Z-O-A-R, or Z-O-A-R for the Americans. The being was, appeared in my living room, and he basically just appeared in a dream at first for me. I woke up in the morning on November 2011, and I remember this face of this being with big eyes and big mouth. He had a bright smile, and he looked like a surfer dude, like Californian surfer dude, but with like the eyes 3 times the size of ours, and with a big bright smile and high cheekbones. And he was not looking like a human being. He looked humanoid, but not human-like. And so it kind of bothered me a bit, thinking that's kind of an odd-looking, man, or teenager, I guess. And so I went to work that day, and that face never left me. It still remained in my field of vision for the whole day without disappearing. And that started bothering me a bit, because I could not focus. I could not focus on my work. And so at the end of the day, when I went back home, I decided to sit down on my sofa, just to basically just sit down and just think about it, not even meditate, really. I did say before on interviews I was meditating or whatever. It was not a meditation. I was just trying to think about figuring out what it was, and what I could do about this. I'm a man of solutions. I'm trying to find and fix things. That's what I was doing in my business world every day. And so
that's what most men do. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I was not trying to be like all guru-like or anything else. So, I was just trying to find out what was going on in my life. And I poured myself a chamomile tea on the countertop beforehand, letting it sip on the countertop. When I went on the sofa and sat down, I could feel this very vibrant energy going around me, like counterclockwise, going very intensely. I could really feel it physically. It was a very strange feeling, and almost like you feel kind of dizzy, but not quite. It was hard again to describe. And so when the energy stopped, that's when I opened my eyes and I saw this being standing up right in front of me. And he was physical. He was placed right in front of my library books. And the room I was in, so in my living room, I was in the dark. It was an open space with a kitchen. So the kitchen was lit up, so I could still get some light into the living room. Therefore, I could even see my books, in the background. But the being that showed up was very physical and very bright. In essence, that his energy was glowing around him. He had a blue glow around him. He was not a blue chicken. He only had a blue glow. And so, as I was looking at him, and I realized that I could not close my eyes. I could not move my hands, my legs. I was physically transfixed and paralyzed. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really even in shock, to be honest with you. I just realized that, I can't move. My first reaction in my mind was, what are you doing in my house? Like, I was looking at it as an invasion, mm-hmm. Like a home invasion. And so I wasn't really thinking rationally.
He didn't seem familiar at all.
No, of course not. Apart from the fact that I recognized his face from the dream that I had, but he was not. No, he was definitely not. I mean, it's not that he was, 7 or 8 feet tall, or he looked like a human being. Like he had 6'2" height. He was 6'3" maybe. He was not very tall. I mean, compared to me, I'm 6'2". So relatively speaking, mm-hmm. He could be like a normal human being, apart from his, facial features. But like I said, the sensation of being not scared, but just apprehensive of his presence was abnormal, because I should have been more apprehensive or scared than I was. But I guess I was tamed down. And the fact of being paralyzed, for what I understood after the facts, is that those beings, when they show up, they show themselves up to human beings physically. They have to, and I never said that before, by the way. So this is like an exclusive
information, guys.
There's so many things I know that I haven't even shared on on interviews. The reason why they do that, and it's not just for me, but most people, when they paralyze people, when they make them forget things, they place them in this state of consciousness. So they tame them down on purpose, so we don't pollute their consciousness. You have to realize that their understanding of the cosmos is much larger than ours. And for what we understand, they understand about different dimensions. They understand about so many more things that we do in this reality, that the physical emotions that we have, or the emotions that we have, the thought processes that we have, affect them deeply. Wow. To such an extent that it's highly disruptive. It could almost like turn them mad if we look at it that way. Every thought could become a reality in their world.
Wow. So that's really fascinating, because I thought you were going to say they paralyze us to protect themselves physically, because a lot of humans would just go straight to violence and be like, hey, get out of my house.
No.
And so I thought it was that kind of protection. So given what you just said, I mean, even though you're paralyzed, you can still have thoughts like, I'm going to go, let's say he wasn't so good looking, right?
Right.
Like,
that's the thing.
Go get my knife and I'm going to stab this guy, right? Then how do those thoughts not become part of their reality, or, just any kind of negative thought?
Well, like I said, if you are paralyzed, you're under like anesthesia.
Does it paralyze your thoughts a little bit?
Exactly. So it's not just the physical body. It's also, when you are calm and you're in such you have such an attitude that you basically almost are careless. You are being subdued. You are forced to get rid of all the stuff that doesn't matter. The monkey brain vanishes. You just focus on one topic. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for of your concentration. So you focus on them and they can focus on you. And there's a very basic, simple conversation that happens, and there's no fear. And in fact, most ETs don't like to interact with human beings for that same reason, because we are too distracted and we have too many thought processes that they can't handle. It's just too much for them, because they have to subdue us in order to communicate with us. So the least they do it, the better. So if they communicate, for example, I'll give you another example. When people are channeling beings like that, they go into this kind of trance-like, they meditate, they are trying to really calm themselves down, and then they can channel. Channel is a typical expression of that. It goes in one direction. It's a channel.
Right.
It's not multiple channels. It's just one channel.
Sure.
You try to focus on one being, one communication to get to the point. And that's exactly what they're after. So Zoho, and that was his name, showed up to me and basically presented himself as Zoho from the Galactic Alliance. That was his name. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what the Galactic Alliance is. I don't even know who you are. Basically, he seemed very happy to see me, but I could not recognize him. And it's not like he was trying to share thoughts with me or trying to give me anything. He was just happy to see me and to be there. That's it. So I guess as my mind was still thinking, not quite rationally, because again, when you have such encounter, it's almost illogical the way you think, because again, your mind processes are being managed by those beings, not like, they're not being manipulated in any way, but they're just trying to, again, channel the energy so they can communicate with you in a certain way. And for me, when I was having those erratic thoughts in a way, I was thinking, what should I think about? And then all of a sudden, one thing shows up. Everything else disappears in a mist. You don't even remember what happens or what comes up about these thoughts. You just remember typical specific questions, and you just answer and shoot those questions telepathically, because I couldn't even speak. So physically speaking, I was paralyzed, but in any way, shape, or form, I was just completely automated. Robot. So the questions I had for him was about the visions I was having, which is kind of odd. I could have asked him more things about, where you come from, who are you? I didn't even bother asking that. It's like I couldn't even care. It's true. I didn't care because I didn't know him. I was not very curious about him. It was all about me. But it's in essence, it was good in a way that he shared with me information to do with my physical reactions to the visions I was experiencing at the time that I was trying to push away. I did that for 10 years when I met my wife, or future wife at the time, and she was scared of those visions. So I just decided to block it and create this Faraday, cage around me for 10 years that worked very well until my wife became pregnant, and then all these visions came back in full force. So being a businessman and having those visions at the same time was kind of, it was not compatible in that sense.
Right. What did he tell you? About blocking those visions? Did he say like?
No, he never addressed that. I basically asked him as to, if those visions I was having were real, and he said yes. But when I had visions at the time of cataclysms and natural disasters, people dying and all these things, and he kind of treated
happy things, like
happy thoughts, exactly, on a daily basis. And I was addressing those concerns to him, and again, he kept looking at me with a big bright smile, and he said to me, "Well, people die, and it's nothing to him. Millions of people have died, and it meant nothing to him because we were eternal souls. Therefore, what does it matter? This is just an envelope. We just move on and do something else."
Right.
That was more shocking to me than, he could have said to me, "I believe in the Holocaust and I'm all for it." It would have been exactly the same reaction. I was not happy about it. It was not making me feel any better. Yet, that's the answer he gave me. And it was a very succinct, a very quick answer not, he was not elaborating on the topic. It was very quick. The conversation that we had was maybe worth like 15 minutes of my time or his time. And that was it. And then he just vanished. I don't even remember him saying goodbye. It's just that he just stopped. Okay, bye, see ya. It just went. And so as he disappeared in a haze, the first thing I remember, again, what shocked me the most is regaining the physical abilities. Standing up of my sofa and looking down at my feet while walking back towards the kitchen. And I remembering that day when thinking, I've lost my mind. I've turned mad. I've turned crazy. This is not possible, right?
Right.
And I really doubted it for a long time until, I grabbed my cup of tea and, I put it to my lips. It was freezing cold. And then I looked at the clock and I realized that I had over 2 hours of missing time.
Wow. That's incredible that it was 2 hours and it felt like
it felt like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And so I still have to this day no idea where this time went. I never tried to research it because I just know that somehow, even if I was invited back on his spaceship and, whatever experience I had was made up, or he inserted those thoughts in my head, I got these answers from the downloads I received later on, and also the hypnosis sessions I went through afterwards. So because of the visions I was experiencing, which were disturbing my work on a day-to-day basis, I contacted a clinical hypnotherapist to deal with those visions. And my first thought was trying to get rid of them. So I would just be focusing on the dollar value of my trades, and that's it.
Because he would appear to you at work, right? So you'd be looking at your computer screen and his face would come in.
He only showed up once in my dreams, like during the day. He didn't show up afterwards. So during the week when I was waiting for the hypnosis sessions to start, he never showed up. I was just like waiting patiently for those, experiences with the hypnotherapist, but I never thought of him. I wasn't even thinking about Zoe. To me, like, it was just a one-off. I wasn't thinking he would come back. I had zero connections with him that day.
So he didn't tell you he was your star brother?
No, he never shared that with me on that day, ever. I have a fluke thing. I thought, well, it will just, it's part of the past, it's gone. And so when I went through the hypnosis sessions, that's when I realized that there was a deeper connection to him than I thought. And I was not, again, researching the UFO world, or I was not really anticipating an abduction when I was 16 years old, which happened apparently. Again, I remember those experiences through hypnosis, but I don't physically remember those, like consciously. I don't remember them.
Right.
I just know that there were certain activities I was involved in when I was 16 years old, such as automatic writing. I had visions as well, like prophetic visions. I was seen at 2 different places at once, which was by location. I was doing remote viewing at the time without knowing what it was. And I was really involved in doing that just to impress girls because it was working. And so I was just,
It probably still works.
Well, maybe, but I don't really work on that. It's just, now it's a bit more serious than that. But
I know.
I was just doing it, because again, it was fun. It just came naturally. I wasn't really working towards it. I wasn't reading books about it. It just came, and I was just using it. So when I went back in terms of regressions to when I was 16 years old, is when I realized I was abducted, and it surprised me. In fact, the experience of the abduction, I was describing it to the therapist without realizing that I was being abducted. So I said, "Oh, my feet are leaving the ground. What's going on here? I'm levitating."
Oh, wow.
So I was not even thinking of the abductions because, again, it was not part of my world.
No memory of it.
So it was not something I was interested in. And when I saw the spacecraft and the tall gray aliens inside the spacecraft that who abducted me when I was 16, it became more and more real because they were so present. I could really sense them that in physical form. It was astonishing how clear they were in my mind when I was reliving that.
Wow.
Like I could see the almost the like the shiny on their skins, like from the lights, and it was so fresh. You could almost like see the sweat just up close up. It was
like watching an HD movie.
Exactly, it was so clear, right? Like 4D almost, 4K. I mean, so I was living that experience, describing it to the therapist, and at the end of the session. She terminated the sessions because she was not prepared for that. And she said, look, I need to research it. This is too complicated for me. She was not specializing in abductions, obviously. And she was not really believing in them either. For her, it was, she could help people stop smoking cigarettes and, helping pregnant women and, going through trauma, whatever. It was not her subject.
Well, it's a surprise to both of you, for sure.
Well, it was. And, but for me, I kept telling her, I said, look, I don't believe in this. For me, I'm seeing that, I'm describing it, but I don't think this is real. I think I'm just making it up. It's in my head. It's just my imagination. And she said to me, no, it's not your imagination. It's real. It's like, she showed me the MRI pictures on where people were under hypnosis and the parts of your brains were being lit up, if you're under hypnosis or if you're trying to use your imagination. There are two separate compartments, imagination and memory are not in the same place. And so, she was trying to convince me that hypnosis was real. And I said, well, my dad, thinks that when you're on stage hypnosis, you don't remember a thing and they can make you look like chickens, so... And because I remembered everything, it was so vivid that I thought that I was making it up because it was so clear and it came so fluidly that I thought, well, I'm just making it up. There's no other way, right?
Yeah.
Again, using my rational mind to describe a certain process. And so I had no other experiences with hypnosis before to that extent to describe such, experience that I had to, again, find a rational meaning to it. And so while I was seeing those things, after a week, I came back to see that hypnotherapist, and I went back through the same abduction experience. And at one point, the gray aliens, the tall gray aliens, showed me symbols. And the therapist said, well, can you ask them what those symbols mean? And I was met with silence. And after that, she said something that completely changed my way of thinking, or at least belief system on hypnosis or about hypnosis. She said, can you ask them to show you where you've seen those symbols before, if they mean anything to you? And that's when I was sent back to...
Such a great question.
Yeah, and I was sent backwards in time, almost. It felt like I was going backwards somehow in darkness. I couldn't see a thing. I could just feel the sensation of going backwards. And then I opened my eyes under hypnosis and I could describe the next scene very vividly again. And I could see hands like this, most of the screen. But my hands were like baby-like I was a 6-month-old baby. And I was living that experience as a first person, like I could see it. Right? And I was describing this cylinder I was in. I was immersed into a cylinder in a black fluid or liquid that was like silky looking. And through the glass dome, there were two silhouettes, beings that were standing up there, not moving, but I could sense their presence. I could see some blue, on them, but that was it. It was very blurry. Yeah. So the therapist said, can you come out of your body to see where you are? Like meaning in a room, but she didn't say that. So I came out of my body and I was describing the next scene saying, oh, it's all black around me. And there's like a 5 to 6 miles long, spacecraft underneath me.
Wow.
And I knew exactly where I was inside the spacecraft in that compartment. It was a cubic shaped spacecraft. So it had different cubic forms to form that spacecraft, And I said, and the Earth is underneath it. So it was just hovering around the Earth. And I also knew that the spacecraft could not be seen from Earth.
Right.
So it was cloaked, but yet it looked black, it was hard to describe, but the structure of it looked metallic, but most likely like more organic looking, almost like an asteroid type of structure. Do you want something like mineral-like, right?
Right.
But still very well sharpened and designed that it was definitely manufactured in a way, or shaped that way.
Wow. So I have so many questions.
Yeah. I just realized I never said that either, but lots of exclusives today.
So this black goo, it's been on X-Files and it's been talked about. Did you ever go back and research to find out what it was?
Yeah, it was not black goo. The meaning of black goo, again, it's
the black liquid you were in.
Yeah. Again, even the black goo itself there's a lot of disinformation to do with that, because I believe that liquid healed my body. Actually, that liquid healed me and my DNA. So they actually did DNA repair through that liquid that was intelligent. I would say that that liquid was thinking as much. It was moving in a certain pattern, like wave, but stopped midway, and could have looked at you like an alien. It was a living thing, organism that was part of my skin, because my skin at the time was raw. I basically was missing the first layer of my epidermis at 6 months old, and I was born that way. And so
this was after your parents took you to that healing center.
No, it was before.
It was before, okay.
It was before. I was only 6 months old. I was born without the first layer of my epidermis. And so when it was, let's say, like a birth defect in a way. And so I was raw, like red and screaming all day long. I had special diapers. It was not very, very pleasant for my family, because I could not sleep at night. I was screaming all the time and, in pain. And the doctors in Europe could not find out what I had. So they gave it a name, Leishmaniasis, which is a genetic, let's say, malformation. So I was missing some proteins in my DNA, according to them. They never did a test to find out if that was the case or not. But they assumed that was the case because I had the physical symptoms of Leishmaniasis, but not the actual overall symptoms, like physically. Like I should have been 5'1", 5'1" instead of 6'2".
Right.
I could have been blind today. There were so many things that I should have not had growing up, that I never had any of the other symptoms associated with that condition. So they still give it a name, thinking, well, you know what, we haven't seen that case since 1889 in France, so let's call it that, because we got no other recourse. And so I was diagnosed with that, but at the same time, my skin came back in full force by itself.
Right.
And
so
that came from that encounter at 6 months old. I was somehow rescued or helped. So
you were abducted when you were 6 months old.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it probably even predates that, but I think that's one of the occasions. Yes. Yeah.
I have my own. Like, we'll talk another time about your birth too, because
no, go ahead. Come on.
I have I have my own theory.
Okay, go ahead.
About how you magically appeared in your mother's womb.
Okay, go on.
Do you know which baby was the newer one, the one that came 6 weeks later or whatever it was? Was it you?
I was the oldest.
Was you? Yeah. Okay. So do you think that you were implanted by aliens?
It's possible. Like I said before, the fact that my mother was pregnant, and then she had an hemorrhage, went back to the hospital, and she was only basically pregnant with one fetus. And when she went back to the hospital, they said, well, you don't have one fetus, you got two. But it looks like one is 5 to 6 weeks older than the other.
Right.
And so they couldn't figure it out. And so they said, well, but it looks like one fetus is not developing correctly and will die, right? So that's the reason why they had to, when the other fetus died prematurely, they had to dehydrate the fetus inside the womb because it would not come out. And so every month my mother was receiving injections, for dehydrating or mummify the other fetus, so I will grow normally. And I was born after 9 months, like a normal condition. I was, a big baby, and so I basically was not, malnourished or anyway. Aside from the fact that I had no skin on, so just a small glitch.
Do you think those injections may have impacted your skin?
Well, it's possible. But again, according to the doctors, they didn't believe this was an actual normal side effects of the drugs. Okay. We were not fraternal twins, so I was in a separate womb altogether.
Or you were fraternal twins? Or you weren't fraternal?
We were not fraternal twins, no.
Right, because you weren't really twins per se, because you came later. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. So my mother became pregnant like 5 weeks after falling pregnant with the first child. So, right. Which is a very rare condition. It's not, it's unusual, but it's not impossible. It happens in human beings too. Yeah. It happens it happens mostly with animals than human beings. But it's still happening to this day with normal human beings. You can just look it up in the news, and it happens. But again, those children usually do not, develop the same way as I did, with the skin conditions and everything else. But it is very common for the first fetus to die. So to that extent, that kind of matches that condition.
Right. It's almost like a walk-in, but in the womb. It's totally, like if you think about what a walk-in is, it's kind of fascinating.
Well, I think, like, again, from the conversations I had with Zoe later on, and remembering of situations that reminded me of, I was destined or predestined to live this life, and my mother was chosen. I mean, we all choose the lives we have today. It's not like, oh, well, God, I wish I was someone else. We choose this path all the time, and that's our journey. So we can't blame it on someone else. It's our decision. Right. Again, people may not find out, pleasant, if they talk about people who died. Like, you have let's say the murderer and the victim. That's a typical example. I have a friend called Garnet Schulhauser, and he talks about this. He had direct downloads and communications with a being that appeared to him the same way as I saw Zoe. He saw a man on a bench, and he was a lawyer. He was a corporate lawyer at the time in Calgary, in Canada. And he saw this beggar, on the street, who said, what do you think you are doing? Stopped him in the middle of the street, and Garnet was like, oh, who are you? Like, he was trying to walk away from him, and then just sat down on the bench with him and started to talk to him, said, what do you need? You need some food, clothes, you seem in pretty poor condition. And the beggar replied to him saying, well, you look pretty, nice, in your suit, but you're pretty hollow on the inside.
Oh my gosh.
And that's how the conversation started, and said, if anybody looked at you right now on the streets, they would not be sorry about me, they would be sorry about you, because you are talking to yourself. Right?
Wow.
That's how it appeared. So that's how he describes his experience. So he resigned from his job after that. He went off to write like 5 books about the consciousness movement, his experience with Albert, his spirit guide.
Yeah.
That's, and so he describes those very hard situations of basically being a victim versus a murderer. If they choose their role, of being a murderer or a victim, one has to think, who are we to judge? At the end of the day, because we don't understand what goes on behind this realm, we have no idea. We only are,
well, some people do,
arguing, well, basically just commenting, judging, right? Situations based on what we don't know. So it's based on our morals, and what we know of this reality, and that's it. It's education. It's what makes sense, right? It's not what it means in the consciousness realm of as a human, as a soul being, of the experience. And anybody who dies, who has a near-death experience, they will tell you that their physical body means nothing to them. They could see themselves in the hospital room, being surgically operated on, looking at their body from the ceiling and thinking, I can see myself here, but I don't care.
Right.
That's what happened to my mother when she was 16, when she had a major car crash. She saw her body, and she went into a white tunnel, and then the beings over there told her, this is not your time, you have to go back. And she said, I don't want to go back, just so, and that happens many, many times, right? So again, once we remember who we are as soul beings, we basically have a very different understanding. It's a much broader understanding of the universe, the cosmos, our role to play within that realm, and what kind of role we play as a human being, which is still very important. We live an experience, and that's it. And again, that's exactly what my star family, when I saw them, again, through meditation, I guess, could it that, or even through the hypnosis sessions, they said, you are only supposed to be living this life and die. That's it. Nothing else. But because Zoe showed up and decided to speak with you and awaken you in a way, now your purpose has changed. Right? So I had no idea what was going on. I would have been happy to just live this life and die. I was already thinking about going on holiday, traveling on nice, nice islands, drinking cocktail, just, living the life.
Did you get a sense that Zor was supposed to awaken you, or was it like his own personal mission?
I think he was curious. I think what I discovered afterwards is that he broke protocol. Like, he was not supposed to be doing what he did at the time in 2011. And he still did it anyway because he was very eager to see me. And I think deep down, he was kind of a rebel, and he wanted to copy me, because apparently, according to him, as an alien being, I was a rebel, or I am a rebel. What you have to realize is, as doppelgangers or avatars, we do live this life as a human being, but our soul experience are connected to certain ETs. It doesn't mean this is the case for everyone. Like you mentioned, walk-ins. If you have soul beings who definitely just want to have the human experience, then that's what they experience, and then they go back to the source, and call it paradise, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you have different stages. Some souls decide to help ETs as well, because they are still conscious beings as much as we are. They simply have different technologies. They are more advanced because they've been around longer than us. So the memory does not go away. This is part of their DNA. Therefore, if they have a soul, is the same way as we do. If our bodies are just an envelope, and we just decide to be part of his being, that's exactly what I saw with my daughter when my wife got pregnant. I saw the souls queuing up in the bedroom, and bowing like this to find out if they could be the right fit for my child. Oh, wow. And I wasn't even thinking about it. I just got woken in the middle of the night and feeling that, and then seeing those white, tall, long silhouettes. No forms. They were not human-like beings. They were just big, white beings that were there, and then just bending like like Casper the Ghost, but without the arms. Just and so
were they asking like her consciousness, or you, or both of you together?
They were not asking me or my wife, no. They were just finding out if they would be the right fit for this child. I don't know how this would have been connected. I don't know how the fetus, at the time, my wife was maybe 3 or 4 months pregnant. And it was not instant. It's not like, she became pregnant and the souls started showing up in the bedroom. No, they waited 4 months to arrive.
Yeah, they come before you get pregnant a lot of times.
I don't know.
But, well, I've done some research on that, and I've heard that when you start thinking about getting pregnant, sometimes baby souls will start showing up in your energy field.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when you get pregnant, one of them will decide to stick around, but sometimes they don't stick around if you haven't learned certain life lessons that you're supposed to learn by that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a fascinating subject.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what's the rush? If you are pregnant, let's say it takes 9 months to deliver a baby. If it's already predetermined that this child will be delivered because the souls will know ahead of time, does it truly matter to walk into a body, during the conceptions or before or after?
No, I've heard they come in right at the end, right in the
maybe,
labor room.
Maybe. I mean, like I said, I don't really know the answer to that. I only know my own experience about this, and it's about my child, and that's it. I don't know anybody else about those experiences. I haven't researched it. I don't really care. I'm sorry to say. I'm just, it's just, it's not. I mean, again, when you experience something, sometimes you say, "Oh, that's nice," that's nice, but you don't really care. It just happens, And for me, I don't really take things so seriously. And you say, yeah, it's nice. Maybe it's something for later, but right now it's not my priority. So I compartmentalize the information, thinking, it's great to know, and I can share it with others. But it's not a topic or subject I would like to specialize in. And that's what I'm saying. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but what I'm saying is that it's not something I want to elaborate on, because I don't know all of the answers about that. All I can say is, as a human being, I know about my soul, which is very different from my child's soul. I don't know when my soul, entered my physical body. I have no idea about that, but I know where it comes from, and I know the different stages of relationships with other beings that are connected to this physical body. And again, that's my experience. It's not necessarily the experience of others. I'm not a copy conform of everybody else on this planet. Everybody have their own experience, their own journey to have. And I'm not here to teach them anything about that. This is just my own experience about this. And I can talk about it because I know of it. But it doesn't make me, a guru again, or someone who specializes in that. I just know that experience.
Are you up for taking a question from the chat room?
No. No. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So we have a question from Tinette, and she says, "I saw a star zoomed in, looked like a plasma ball. What does he think that is?"
A star that zoomed in when she was.
Are you saying like in the sky, or was it in your living room, or?
Yeah, where was it?
Can you give like more information on that question? There's a 20-second delay. So.
Right. Well, what I can say is orbs that show up in our lives, could be related to ancestors, people who passed away. I mean, that's the most common experience of people. If it's a star, however, I don't know if it's a specific star and she remembers it as being a bright light. It could be something totally different. It could be, I've experienced sparkles of light that look like stars, and those were happening while I was meditating, and basically mandalas started to open up right underneath my body, like on a carpet. And I was immersed into this golden globe around me that was moving. There were two golden rings that were moving at the same speed, but slowly at the beginning and then very, very fast to form an actual perfect circle of light around my body that was golden. And through that, I could see sparks of light that showed up. It was mostly like energy based. I don't think it was conscious. I don't think it was most likely mechanical. It was more associated with bending space and time rather than having a being in the room. If she thinks that that energy was conscious, then that's probably most likely a soul energy that wanted to be in touch with her.
She said that it was in the sky and it was not supposed to be a star there. So I guess it was a star, and then she zoomed in and it was a plasma ball.
Which, yeah. So, again, you have to realize that sometimes our conscious mind can make connections to those beings in space. They can communicate with us one-on-one. If you basically send that information, you want to communicate with them and say, "Why are you?" They will try to make that connection. Those kind of ball of lights or orbs. Usually those light forms are not physical. They are definitely more like energy beings. Like the orbs are multidimensional, and they will appear at random. If you look at the space, it happened to me as well. And because my wife was curious and said, you keep talking about UFOs now, show me one outside. And I used a laser pointer and I just pointed the space in the sky, and this white light just showed up, and it was very bright, and it receded, and then I used my laser pointer again, and then it came back on again, and then 5 times in a row. We did like back and forth, and it was not moving. It was not the space station. It was not a star. It was something that was responding to this, light. Most likely, I could have done it without the laser, but I guess it was just a medium or a conduit, that most people use. It's an artifice, but you can probably just use your mind to make it happen.
Right. For sure. So you're one of the more multi-dimensional beings that I know. You're able, yes, you.
I'm just Sebastian.
Well, you're able to access other dimensions.
Yes.
Through remote viewing, through, we'll call it meditation. And I remember one time we had a conversation years ago, and we were talking about Ascension. And you said to me, Shri, Ascension is not, going to be that easy. And, we're not going to be able to stop in the 4th dimension before we get to the 5th dimension. And, that was a while ago. And I was wondering if you still have the same beliefs, and if you can share a little bit about what you think the Ascension is, and what it will look like in the future, and what your personal Ascension process is.
Okay. Yeah, so my answer is still the same. In my opinion, that the dimension that we live in is not just a simple 3D dimension. They are all intertwined, right? That's what most people believe, that, we are in a 3D reality, and then we should go to the 4th and the 5th, and, they are like stacked together. It doesn't happen that way. It's all intertwined. We live within various realities right now.
Right.
We just don't remember them. We can't comprehend them because there are so many of them. If we're aware of every single reality within multiple dimensions, we'll just become crazy and mad. And it happens. People do turn crazy and mad when they start raising their level of consciousness, when they try to comprehend everything at the same time, and it's impossible. Not with our physical brains. We can understand the concept of it through quantum physics, and that can be explained. It can be taught, but again, on such a small scale, compared to the reality of things. That's why we say, infinity goes on to infinity. We don't try to say how many steps there are to infinity, right? It's just impossible to know, right? It's like the number pi. Do you know that number pi has no limit? If you try to, there's no sequence to the number pi. So like the 3.40 number goes on to infinity, and those numbers don't succeed, with each other in random. They are random. So there's no real sequence to those numbers. and it goes on to infinity, and they try to calculate it. So that's a very interesting point as well. Mathematically speaking, we are within a program as well. So it's designed for us. This reality is, even the universe or the multiverse is mathematically speaking designed. So when we talk about the architects of the cosmos and these sort of things, they already designed this reality to be so complex. It's trying to go into the brain of an engineer or a programmer. Unless you actually study the topic, you will not be able to understand what you can do with this reality. You can see the after effects like a software. You can see it visually, but you don't really know what goes behind it. So that's the way we live in today. We live within a program, within a software. We have those physical experiences because we believe they are. We have those human emotions that are, somehow going into this physical reality. You don't know how that happens, but it's here. We have to deal with it. The emotions are not 3D from this 3D realm. They do not belong in the 3D world.
Right?
Where
do they belong?
Well, they belong to higher dimensions, obviously, because they're not physical. The same way as our soul does not belong to this reality either. But we managed to trap those various realities within one. And that's how it becomes complex, because you can then start learning how to make them live in harmony with one another, not against each other. So one does not negate another. This is the perfect situation when you live within this reality. You should not deny this reality or thinking that this is rubbish. I hate this life. I want to go to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension.
Right.
No, you have to accept this reality in order to blossom and to grow from this reality in order to appreciate what you have first before moving on.
Right.
You can't live in this denial situation of refusing this reality because you want to go to the next. And again, what happens next? You go into the higher dimension, and then what? You think that you know everything? No, it doesn't work that way. There are some other beings in higher dimensions that are waiting for you like a prey. They basically want you to come over and say, yeah, come in, because you can have like a PhD in a 3D reality, but you'll be falling back into kindergarten when you go into the fifth dimension, because you have zero experience in that dimension. So you are like a victim. And unfortunately, this was also documented with a term called the loosh. Do you know the term?
Yes.
So Bob Monroe from the Monroe Institute talked about it in his books. The term loosh was created in the 1800s. It's not a new term, right? So the concept of parasite energy beings that do exist out there has already been known for centuries. It's just that how do we put it in a context? And when we live within this reality, those loosh parasites are still all around us. They feed off it. They feed off our energy. Right. So when people suffer from psychic attacks and everything else, they say, I don't know what's going on in my life. I'm being attacked. Well, that's because you don't understand the layers of dimensions that do exist within that loosh.
Right. We're all living.
We're all part of it.
Right. We're living in those dimensions simultaneously.
Exactly. Yes.
And it sounds like what you're saying is that these other beings that have more experience than us in the higher dimensions like to feed off of our energy. And so there are people who believe that like the fourth dimension is where you use your psychic abilities, where your telekinesis comes from, whatever. So that's where it gets confusing to me personally, because I feel like if we're all living in 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever D already simultaneously, and those beings are feeding off of our negative energy anytime they want, if you're not protecting yourself, then that concept of like, well, when you get to the fourth dimension, you're going to be in trouble because they're waiting for you there. Like that's where the disconnection.
Yeah, you're right. They're not waiting for you there. What I'm saying is, once you become enlightened, you become a lighthouse.
Yeah.
Right, a beacon of light.
A beacon of light, and then they see you, and they're like, "Oh,
they can see you even more. They can see you even more, right?" So it already happens today at random. Like you have those entities, like those spirits, that could feed off your energy when you are under a certain state of like drunkenness, for example, when your body, like you feel like you are disconnecting your soul from your physical body. Like you have an out of body experience while being drunk. Great. But what I'm saying is, it's just not great. What I'm saying is it's just one experience for a short period of time. Imagine having that 24/7, right? Yeah. So that's why it becomes more challenging to deal with the parasite energy, because I'm aware of them every single day, 24/7 today, and I still live within 3D reality, and I'm not afraid of them because I've learned from it. I was more afraid.
Can you see them when they're feeding on people's energy?
Oh yeah, I can see. Mm-hmm. I can mostly like sense the energy because it's something that you feel. Mm-hmm. Especially like if you are surprised by it, say, "Oh, I know what that is. I know the feeling of it." You recognize it. Sometimes it's not something that is physical in a way that you think it's right there, like in your face, and like, "Oh, I'm here." No, it doesn't work that way. It could happen 6,000 miles away from you. It doesn't have to be close to you,
right?
Because again, time and space doesn't work the same way in their reality than it does happen to our reality. Once you understand that, you start learning about the basics of remote viewing as well, when your consciousness can be everywhere at once, and it's timeless, it's spaceless. It doesn't matter what it is. You can project your consciousness at any point in space and time, like instantly.
Right.
Loosh does exactly the same thing. Parasite energy does the same thing because it's got no borders, right? So yeah.
What does a psychic attack look like and feel like? How can somebody recognize it versus like, "Oh, I wish have a headache"?
Yeah, it's not the same every time. Like for me, when it first happened to me, and I know that it will never happen again to me because I had enough of those that I'm not protected, and I went beyond that. But again, when you first have those psychic attacks, you just wonder what's going on here. Like you don't feel right. There's for me, it started with a massive splitting headache, physical nosebleeds, and you feel very unsettled. It can happen very differently for different people. You could have like stomach aches. You could have feeling like dizzy, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. At the end, you know that this physical reaction is not connected to an ailment in particular. Like it happens at random. And when I realized what was going on to me, I just, sat down on my sofa the first time around, and I know it happened because it was going on based on a remote viewing session I was asked to do, and I went to Eastern Europe in a cave to witness some ancient technology that was guarded there, and a white Draco reptilian was in that cave and spotted me while doing remote viewing. And I was really shocked by that because, one, I was not anticipating any presence there. And two, that I was also shocked that he actually saw me while I wasn't there physically.
Right.
And so that's when I stopped the session. And that same night, I got attacked psychically at midnight. I woke up and I had this, splitting headache and nosebleed. And so I went downstairs in my house, and I sat down on the sofa. And at the time, I was actually communicating with people in my cell, doing remote viewing, because I'm not just on my own, I'm doing it with other people as well. And they were also attacked at the same time, all of them. And they didn't know what was going on. So
because you were in the same network.
Yeah. And so they were asking me what was going on. And so I explained to them what was going on as to know what I believe it was. And I was using, again, my Kundalini energy to repair my DNA, fix the issue, but not really realizing that the attack was ongoing. And I could feel it. Like you could feel this flow of negative energy passing through your bones. And that's how I could differentiate the psychic attacks. It was not like a physical ailments where you feel like you're having a heart attack or that you feel anxiety or anything else. It feels like radiation, like almost like radiation of energy passing through your bones.
Okay.
Through the density of your bones, which is a very unusual feeling.
That was a severe psychic attack.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was basically, attacked aggressively because of what I was seeing.
Right.
And so, after 4 hours, or I think it was like 3 hours maybe, of being attacked psychically and trying to repair my DNA and, being fed up with the attack at the end, I got fed up. And I don't know why. I just felt very tired of the attack. And unconsciously, I guess, I don't know what happened. I just decided to burst. My energy just basically exploded. And the next thing, without even thinking about it, I traveled through this kind of conduit, this fiber optic-like channel that ended up or opened up to be on top of a skull of a white Draco reptilian, the same reptilian that I saw, in that cave.
Mm-hmm.
And I just blasted it with white energy, and the whole attack stopped. Everything, all the symptoms I had stopped. And then my friends started telling me, what happened? It's finished. It's gone. Like, the symptoms are gone. It happened exactly before even me telling them about it. And that really shocked me. And I was very surprised by, what I was able to do. Mm-hmm. I never tried to do it twice. I only did it once. I didn't have to do it again. I just realized, however, again, as part of a download, that what happened was not supposed to be happening. And it was not a good thing for me to do that, like to retaliate in a way. I mean, I was trying to defend myself, and it was okay. It was acceptable for me, but it doesn't mean it was acceptable for the beings that I was in touch with. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but that's what they say, this is not something you should have done. It's almost like declaring war, to a different race altogether. We're trying to attack them, even if they were the ones attacking me. But I was only trying to defend myself. But according to them, I was invading their space, and I should have not been there without their authorization, basically. So anyway, so that a week later, I went to New York on for a board meeting. Mm-hmm. And I went back to my hotel in New York, in Manhattan, and I went to Broadway. I went to see a play on Broadway. And just before, I actually had a dinner with a scientist who wanted me to be part of a study group to analyze my abilities. So the guy was researching mind over matter materials for like 25 or 30 years or so. And he wanted me to connect to 3 different universities, to do those tests. And I said, yeah, that's fine, as long as the information becomes public. And he said, no, I don't think that's going to happen. So basically what I've learned is he was working for the CIA, and he was basically not, he was just trying to manipulate me, or at least control the information that I was able to do. They were very curious, and I just refused. And so the same night, I basically came back in my hotel bedroom, and I had this gash on my left leg that was like, that long, on the side of my leg. And I had no idea how this happened. I basically went to a Broadway play. I just sat down. I was wearing jeans. I don't know how this happened. It just occurred like that. And so,
I think it was energetic.
No, that was physical. So I basically got undressed. I went to have a shower, went to bed. And once again, I woke up 11:30 at night or something. And then I basically felt like the same psychic attack, with the radiation going right through my bones. This time around, though, because when I do protection using Kundalini energy, I close my eyes and I try to visualize the damage, or what kind of attack it is, because there are different types of attacks. Mm-hmm. And that one, and again, I'm telling you this right now, but before I experienced it, I did not believe in psychic attacks, because it was hard for me to even to this day. I'm very critical of everything I experience and what other people experience too, because I don't take everything for granted. I just that's my critical mind always working. So anyway, so I basically woke up, with that weird sensation, and I didn't have a nosebleed. I didn't have a headache, but I could feel this energy radiating through my bones, and I didn't have a heart attack. My heart rate was perfectly normal. It's a very weird sensation when you have this beam of light, like constant, like woo, 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 like a frequency that goes and radiates so fast that you feel like you are going to die. And that's exactly the way it felt that day. On that day, I thought I was dying. And when I closed my eyes thinking, how can I fix this? How can I use my Kundalini energy to revert the damage? There was nothing I could have done. So I was trying to fight it off for 4 hours straight. And at the end, I just passed out.
Wow.
And I woke up 3 hours later, and I felt like I could just fly off the curb of the street. And I felt like I was slept for 9 or 8 hours, whatever. Everything was back to normal, and there was nothing wrong with me. And I went back to Canada, the same day. It was a weird experience, but that day I also knew that kind of psychic attack would never happen to me, or any psychic attack would never happen to me again, ever.
Why is that?
Because let's say that for what I've been told, that day I died, and I was revived. I was revived by my star family, and they kind of protected me and said, we need to make sure that this never happens again. And so that's basically, since that day, it never happened to me again. And I've been involved in other things and remote viewing sessions and seeing Draco reptilians, and kind of made me a bit more careless than usual because of what I was able to do without the risk of being attacked psychically again.
Right.
But
you also, what they did to make sure that you were safe, like what a certain
I know it,
around you.
Maybe it could be that, or it could be an implant.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, when you are protected, you feel kind of reckless in a way. And I was involved in certain things that people got afraid for me because I was not, afraid. But at the same time, it's a good thing. Because
were you also testing it a little bit?
Who was testing?
Were you also testing to see?
What
our family said was true, that you
yes. Well, in a way, yes. I mean, I was basically trying to find out if my abilities were genuine, and if basically being involved in certain situations would make me protected. And other people that I know basically were more afraid for me than they were for themselves, because they were seeing me doing things that I should have not done, and I've done it. And I survived it, and they just wow, we don't understand it. It's basically how it goes. And still to this day, I know that I would never look back. I'm not the same person as I was before. And every time an experience like that changes me, I feel it, and I know the change. And my consciousness changes. Downloads happen more often. It comes in successions of downloads, and then something shifts, and you go to the next level. I don't call it a higher dimension. It's just more of an understanding of higher dimensions.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it goes. So once you embrace the various realities of different consciousness that are out there, then it becomes part of your vocabulary. It becomes part of your life, and you just embrace it, being part of you. It's not like it's something else. The fifth dimension is part of you, all the time. You just need to know what it is. You need to experience it. And I know that a lot of people will say, how do I experience it? That's the main question.
How do they experience the fifth dimension?
Yes, exactly. Right. So it's not just a matter of, meditating and, trying to reach the fifth dimension. That's maybe one aspect, but that could take years. What I'm saying is there are certain tools that you can use to accelerate it. I'll give you one. Emisync. We talked about this before, privately. Emisync. So the binaural tones or frequencies can help you change the way you can perceive frequencies in the universe, and therefore you can experience and enhance whatever experiences you already have in terms of telekinesis or out-of-body experiences, remote viewing. Any of these facets of consciousness can be enhanced dramatically through emisync or through binaural frequencies.
Do you still do that?
No, I don't have to, but right. I've done it once because I was curious to know how this worked. But once you understand about frequencies, you can just generate them just by thinking about them. You don't have to follow the courses or do the workshops. I mean, some people do that all the time because they feel that they can benefit from something else. And that's great. I think it's a great tool. I think I really will recommend it to anyone who want to experience something like that. Meditation, again, is another aspect. What I can tell you is like when I went through all these experiences throughout the course of my life in over the years, I talked to Buddhist monks, Tibetan monks, Rinpoches, who were reincarnated souls, from other beings before and all of that. And they told me, I said, look, a mantra is just a tool. It's just to get rid of the monkey brain. And right. You can simply meditate without a mantra as long as you can, again, keep focus, right? And it works the same way with the dimensions. Like when you meet with other beings, multidimensionally, if you can't keep focused, then you can't talk to them. You can't reach out to them. Right. So it's about preparing your consciousness to channel this being, and you can really be in an altered state. So some people who use magic mushrooms, that I don't use any drugs. It doesn't agree with my system altogether. So I can't smoke marijuana. I can't do drugs. It's a bummer. I feel like I'm letting everybody down at parties, but that's the way it goes. I just don't need this. And I know
you can blast white reptilians. So
well, exactly. So for me, like it's those people are using those drugs, to feel good, but also to have an experience. So and that's great for them. I think. If they want to use whatever means possible that can help them becoming more enlightened in one way, shape, or form, then good for them. Yeah. I don't basically personally say this is necessary, but for them, if they feel that they can see something because they have no other recourse, then that's so be it. That's up to them. Yeah. But once again, it's just an artifice. It's just a tool, to access something that you can do naturally. It's just a matter of knowing how to channel it. And if you know how to meditate and understand who you are internally, so if you can just simply look within, then you can expand your consciousness. This is again kind of the hairy-fairy type of explanation. Look within, and then the answers will come. But in essence, it is true. You have to look within, just to look at your cells, starting with the physical realm. Yeah. I'm not talking about looking within your soul. That's kind of boring to me. Do that last. This is not as important. If you are physical, try to visualize your cells within. Try to visualize your organs. Try to visualize your bones. I think what's the guy called Doctor something that fixes back.
Fixes back.
Yeah, he had like 6 vertebrae that got ruined, and he basically just focused on those, and then he managed to reconstruct each and one vertebrae, one after the other.
Joe Dispenza.
Yes, here you go.
Oh, wow. I was listening to his book today.
Yeah.
The Superhuman book.
So he realized that as a doctor himself, he realized that, this is how I can visualize my physical body looking within. He had nothing else to do. He was in a wheelchair anyway. So, good for him that he was able to focus on that rather than just opt for surgery. He would have asked his patients to go for surgery after what he had. But, within 4 or 5 weeks, I believe he just managed to recover, and just naturally by thinking. And he felt, right. What's interesting, think about that. He had to look at each and one vertebrae, let's say 6 of them, one after the other. If he lost the concentration, he had to start again.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think the same way when you try to access higher dimensions, if you try to look within and you just focus on your soul energy, for example, what do you expect if you can't visualize what it means? Right? So you can't start with that. This is the other way around. You have to start with small things that you do understand within physical reality. Starts with your bones, starts with the largest organs, and trying to heal yourself, in a small way. It doesn't have to be in a big way. I mean, some people with cancer can use the Dr. Spinenza methods to, heal themselves. And I know them. I have friends who have that. But it doesn't mean that...
That's what I was listening to today.
It doesn't mean that it works for everyone. Again, everyone has different levels of concentrations and focus. And that's the basics of everything. So if you can focus on one thing and just make it that you become an expert at it, then go to the next level.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great. I was telling my son, who just started with a cold last night before bed, I said, tell your cells to get healthy. Tell your cells to remember their original blueprint. They know what it looks like and feels like to be healthy.
Yeah.
So just tell them to go back to your original blueprint. You don't need to be sick, And he goes, okay, mommy, I will.
Does he know how a cell looks like?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him that. I don't know if they covered that in science yet.
Yeah, maybe you're already using something that might be a bit too complicated for him to realize.
Yeah, he does, because he knows what atoms and molecules look like. So
okay, fair enough.
Close enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So then it's about trying to understand the basic relationships between molecules and cells, and just trying to visualize those. And same way as you can visualize something like cancer, and trying to look at small things eating away at the cancer, like those kind of
white blood cells or whatever
it is, right? Yeah. Whatever eats it up, and so that's what Joe Dispenza trying to talk about and trying to heal you. So it's trying to visualize that reality, and that physical reality works the same way with higher dimensions. If you can visualize that, then more downloads will come once you understand about your soul, and the interaction that your soul has with your physical body. Because once you perceive the soul as an expandable piece of energy that can be limitless, it can be as big as the universe. People do that in meditation, be as big as the universe, wow, you expand, and it is very flexible. And that's the beauty about the soul, is because we are part of the same soul energy. Therefore, we are all one. Let's say that we are all. It's not the law of one, but we are all one because we are all interconnected, and that's true. Yeah, at the end of the day, it is true.
Right.
So it's trying to understand the relationship between those different soul energies and the source energy, and how we interact with it. That makes a difference. So it's not about seeing positive and negative, or evil and good. It's seeing everything as part of one.
Right.
Yin and yang. Right? You have the yin within the yang, and so on.
Right. And speaking of we are all one, most people, when they do remote viewing, I assume, I don't know that much about remote viewing, but I imagine it's kind of like an astral projection thing, and then your consciousness projects to another location and you can see whatever you see. But there's another type where you're actually using somebody else's consciousness, like maybe coming into their body and looking through their eyes, right? Like in the Matrix, what they did, you know, the bad guys did in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So when it first happened to me, I was experiencing remote viewing in different ways. So the first time that it happened to me when I was 16, I projected my consciousness into a room because I wanted to see something that was in the room. And it was a physical reaction. I saw like a block knot. There was a pendant. There were objects that I had to see. And the only thing that I could see, I was seeing those objects on that night table for that girl that I fancied, and I was trying to, impress her with that. And I was hovering over that table, only seeing those objects. That's all I could see. I knew I was in the right room. So what's interesting about remote viewing for me is that I get impressions. So things that I don't see, I get information about it. So I have automatic downloads of information related to that particular event. And then I have the visual, which is, seeing the objects. That's fairly, simple. And then as soon as I've seen those I went back into my body. Not right away. I felt like I was going backwards very fast, almost like in the same way as I did the hypnosis session.
So you had a physical sensation. It wasn't like when you imagine something and you visualize it, because I
had a physical sensation.
Yeah, so it's different than.
Yeah, I had every time I do remote viewing, it's not like having a basic vision. I am in the body of that person.
Every time.
If I see an event through the eyes of someone that I know or I don't know, I sense everything about them, everything. So I am them, basically, right? And so when I'm in that body, I just sense them. I know who they are. I know their name. It's like the way, like I know I'm Sebastien Martin. If I'm doing a remote viewing session and I'm seeing an event through the eyes of someone else, I know exactly who that person is. And I know everything about that person.
Yeah,
I know everything about the gestures. I know about their, what they like. Everything. Right?
You know what my next question is?
Go ahead.
No, you answered it. I was going to ask you that.
Okay.
Like, do you see their childhood flash before your eyes?
Yeah. I basically get not so much the childhood. I don't see their whole entire life, like like I'm about to die, and all of a sudden I see like my whole life flashing before my eyes. No, it doesn't happen that way. I get a general sense of who they are, and I have like downloads of information about who they are, and then I see an event related to them. What's interesting, and again I described that before on other interviews, is that at one point I was in a situation where I was seeing an event in a room with other people, and I was seeing this event through the eyes of this person, that woman, and I saw a man opposite her, and this man was looking at her, and then from that moment on, I jumped into his mind, and I was able to read his thoughts.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
And I was no longer seeing that event through our eyes. I was gone. All I was seeing then was just his thoughts. I was able to visualize what he was thinking. Right? Yeah. Visually speaking, emotionally speaking, I knew how the guy was in many shape and form. So I was able to communicate that to the person I was helping.
How do you deal with yucky energy? I just got a hit of yucky energy.
Yeah,
because I know that story. I read it, and
you just feel disgusted. And, it's not you. Yeah. So I mean, that's the reason why I decided not to help on certain projects that involved pedophilia, child abuse, whatever it is, because I simply don't want to have that experience as a human being, right?
Right.
So I was asked though by the certain government agencies to do remote viewing related to certain events that involve children and kidnapping and all of that. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I know that a lot of people doing remote viewing would do some kind of investigative work or detective work to help some officers and, and I can tell you, like, from their experience, that it's not something that's very pleasant. They don't like it because they can feel everything from, the abuse, the trauma, the death, whatever it is. It's just it's not something I'm really attracted to. And I know it may help other people, but I can help in other ways, right? So, yeah. But I've been involved in intrigue and all these things, and it's fascinating and it's great, and I could write a book about it. But that's for another topic. So I would say,
believe it's already 9:42.
I know. So that book, Inner Journey in Outer Space, I describe my experiences, what I went through from my birth to 2016. And there's a foreword in the book written by Alia Casey, who is an agent who basically helped me. I helped her, but she kind of helped me as well, because we've been in communication with each other for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I've seen her on many occasions in danger, in situations that involved people. She also tested me a lot, and she gave me a lot of information related to what I was experiencing and trying to describe what I was experiencing, because she reads a lot and she has been able to unlock many things to do with the experiences I had and trying to unleash them in a way. And she jokingly speaking the other day, she said, it's funny that I would like to keep you like a genie in a lamp, just for myself. I don't want you to share. I don't share you with anybody else, because she tested me at the beginning, not believing in what I was doing, because she thought it was too far-fetched. Yeah. And she kind of gave me a few different kind of files, missions of events that occurred that I didn't know about, and she asked me to see those events through those people's eyes, and those people were dead. So remote viewing is not something that happens live. It could be happening in the future. It could be happening in the past. Right. It's timeless, right? Yeah. And when I usually see events like that from something in the past or from someone who just passed away, I just know they are dead. Mm-hmm. I'm just reliving a moment in their life that relates to a certain event that is important for those people to know about.
So it feels different when you access the information. Like, can you tell you're going back in time?
Nope. I don't. I just know. It's annoying, right? Okay. So that when you live through an experience, I could almost like date it. It's so precise. For example, I saw a CIA agent that vanished on a mission and nobody knew where he was. And I located his body in northern Afghanistan, and he was in a hole in a village held by rebels. And I gave the location of the place, and mm-hmm. they found him there, but he was already dead. And I told them that he was already dead. But I saw him when I saw the event. I was seeing him shivering to death, and that he was dying of hypothermia. Right. So you sense that. But while I was seeing him going through this in that damp hole, I knew that he was dead already, and I knew everything about him. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was seeing this event through his eyes, right? Yeah. So I went back in time to live that, and at the same time, I knew everything about him and his mannerism, and that's exactly what Alia describes. Like when I can describe people like I've known them all my life.
Right, and he was a friend of hers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a sad story.
Yeah.
So there's one more question about this topic, remote viewing, and then I kind of want to move on and talk about your consciousness school, because we're almost out of time.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't believe it. So Tanette has a question. She says,
Again,
Tanette. No, just kidding. Do you think these attacks have anything to do with CIA mind control projects? And I actually had that question when you were describing the vroom, vroom, vroom in the hotel room.
Yeah.
It sounded so
that was CIA.
strong. I was wondering if it was man-made. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I've discovered, is that was a man-made attack. The staff that I had on my leg was actually one of these ice guns that you use to project nanotechnology that goes through your clothes and your skin, and it grazed my skin to enough so the nanotechnology will enter and penetrate my body and disrupt my cells like hormone disruptors, and in a drastic way that would almost act like cancer. Like within like 4 hours you die, and that's basically what happened to me that day, alongside with the scalar technology weapons that they use at the same time. So I was bombarded with two different types of form of technologies that the CIA had. I don't want to say the CIA. I say maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not them.
To be determined.
To be determined.
Wow. So that's I mean, you help them sometimes, right? Like you do freelance.
Yeah, it's not as simple as it is. Yeah, see, there are very different factions within those organizations because they are layered, and it's very complex. Everything is compartmentalized. I'll give you an example. When they did the remote viewing program through Stargate program with the CIA through the Monroe Institute that was sponsored by SRI, Stanford Research Institute, they kind of created this program with it's a multi-million-dollar budget to create the remote viewing program through the Monroe Institute in Virginia. And the people that were involved basically, work with the military, or some were civilians. And at the end, the information leaked through Washington Post, New York Times, all of that. And then they had to dismantle the program because the taxpayers could not justify spending millions of dollars into something that was far-fetched and like voodoo. So they said publicly that they shut it down. But that's not what happened. No.
Right.
They enhanced it. They spent even more money afterwards, and they compartmentalized it. So the people like were working within cells did not know each other. They didn't know all the ins and outs of the program like those guys used to do it back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So it's way more regimented today. And so sometimes you don't really know who is a friend or a foe or whatever. It's just the way it works. But it's so complex that some of these people also work within the secret space program. And I won't go in there today. Obviously, we don't have time. But I can tell you that many of these people from NSA, CIA, MI6 work for more than just one agency because they can. And sometimes they just, create those, like the same way as you have the Five Eye organization, when you have 5 countries working with one another on one specific project. It happens today. Look it up on Wikipedia. The Five Eye organization comprised of like England, he's got the UK, America, Australia, and New Zealand. And I worked with all of them. So I know that those guys are friendly with one another, but within those agencies, they have certain files and agendas that they keep private because it's to do with national defense or national security. They can't share it with other countries.
Yeah.
To jeopardize the secrecy of the missions, right?
Yeah, a lot of whistleblowers who come forward say that, everything is compartmentalized and, nobody knows what the other person's doing. So that would make sense. Yeah. And so did somebody on the inside tell you about this nanotechnology, or did you intuit the information, or how did you?
No, I was told.
You were told. Okay. You don't have to tell me your source.
Right. No, I was told, but I was also sensing it, like gradually, not right away.
Yeah.
It just got confirmed. Usually, when I experience something, I get the confirmations from someone else without even asking. It just comes, and it's just
awesome.
Something happens. I have a lot of, like, especially with Alia and the people that got involved. She was able to confirm a lot of the stuff that I was able to do through remote viewing. Sometimes you could just be involved in, like, I see people on the internet doing remote viewing, and they has those tests, and sometimes it's so far-fetched it's hard to confirm because you don't know, right? It just something like to describe something about the future. How can you verify it until you can see it at the time? So it's very, very hard to know. It's or even trying to describe something from the past that's so ancient that you have no way of verifying it.
Right.
At least I get those confirmations.
Yeah, I'm sure that was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about something very positive.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's just that, I want to talk about consciousness, and I want to talk about your new consciousness center. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you who don't know, Sebastian is working on a really big project. Just starting out, all happening in divine timing. He's not really doing any work.
Delegate.
The idea of like, oh my gosh, we have to open this center. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Do we have time? We got 8 minutes?
We have it. Yeah. I mean, we can go over a few minutes or, whatever you want to do, but I want to talk about your book too, just for like 2 minutes.
Right. At the beginning.
Okay.
The end. So in 2000 and what was it? 2017, I guess. I went to Scotland like almost 2 years ago, I guess. A year and a half ago, and I met a psychic who told me that I was going to be writing a book. I was going to be doing some conferences. He's a special guy, Dominic Bogue. You can look him up. He's a great psychic, very genuine.
How do you spell his last name?
Boag.
Okay.
He started developing his gift when his dad died, and he became his spirit guide. And he also started developing blindness when he became psychic.
Oh wow!
As his gift becomes more and more pronounced, he's becoming more and more blind. So he was actually introduced to me by Nick Kyle, who was the president of the Paranormal Society of Scotland, and he was a skeptic himself, and said, "Look, I believe this guy is genuine." And so when he introduced him to me, all what Dominic knew about me was my first name and that I was from France, and that's it. And so he said, let me sit down, and we had this beautiful reading, and I won't elaborate on that, but he said, you'll be writing a book, and then you're going to be doing some conferences, and then you're going to be creating a consciousness center. I said, great. So I did a book. I haven't done conferences because I keep pushing them away. And as far as the conference center goes, I keep meeting people. Synchronicity is what really is in my life today. And I basically meet these people who said, I need to help you with your center. I need to help you build it, or I'll give you the land for it, and we need to do it together. And I have these teachers approaching me saying, I want to change my life and do this and work with children to help them develop their psychic abilities and third eye reading. And so I've done like a workshop to do with third eye, and so I'm listening to all these people who approach me, who enter my life. Sometimes I've never met them before. They show up, and then I just listen to them, and it's amazing how, again, you start piecing things together like a puzzle, like a giant puzzle.
Right.
And they all thrive to work towards that goal in a very positive manner, without even me trying to think too much about it, because it kind of goes beyond me. Like I know this is not a task that you do on your own, but somehow the structure starts to build up around all of these people, and it starts to make sense, and they all believe in it so much that they feel completely dedicated to the task, and it's part of their life. They are part of this.
Yeah.
And I meet more and more people who are also doing the same thing somewhere else. Like I met a guy in California the other day who told me that he was selling his health food products just to build a consciousness center in Mexico. And then I said, well, just for Mexico? He said, no, just for the whole world. And that's his life mission. And I always knew, again, this is part of the downloads I received too from that, is I'm observing and I accept and receive information without any criticisms. And I just know that that center, that whatever I'm going to be doing over here, will be working in association with other places, because I can't do this on my own, and they can't do this on their own. But somehow there are going to be some correlations and connections that will help develop, scientifically speaking, we're going to be documenting and using tools to help the consciousness movement, not just to be a way of meditation, but we can analyze and verify certain data the same way as the Monroe Institute were able to develop the binaural frequencies and create different types of levels and focus to do with that. We can achieve the same thing with third eye reading for 7-year-olds. I've done it with my daughter. She was able to read a whole book completely blindfolded, using those mind folds, plastic foam type of eyewear that you can use for resting your eyes, but it's completely, you can't see anything through it. It's basically you put this, and it's pretty thick, and you place that over your eyes, that your eye socket goes in there, and you basically can't see a thing. And
wait, can you put those on real quick? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm like an owl, I'm like Zorro. Look at that.
Right.
I'm a blind Zorro. Anyway, so what's interesting about that is every single child will experience seeing those flashes of lights, or having that light coming up from somewhere in their brain, and you ask them to focus on that and trying to expand it. So the same way as I tried to explain before, that our soul energy can be expanded, like it's very elastic. That's how it starts. You expand your consciousness through that, and you keep focusing on it. So it's paying attention to that, trying to expand it, and then step by step, you can start seeing through your third eye using your pineal gland. Most children don't have a calcified pineal gland, so for them it's way easier. Within like 7 minutes, they can see, information. They can see objects through a wall. All of that happens within the hour. They can do so many things. My daughter, so let's say this course had 10 levels. She was able to do like 6 levels in 1 hour.
Wow.
When normally it takes, at least a week, if not more, to do like 1 level. And
she was like 5 or 6 at the time.
I think she was 7 at the time.
7.
She just turned 7 now. She's 8. But she's always been gifted. She always had the talent of being psychic right from the get-go, since she was a child. She's seen angels. She has seen my cat, before he showed up on the corner of the house. She could barely speak. She was saying cat, cat. And then I was, but there's nothing there. And then the cat just showed up, So she does kind of those things. She's extremely empathetic. She's got so much empathy in her.
Yeah.
Everybody loves her. She's got so many friends. She doesn't have an ounce of negativity in her. Basically, she always sees things in the positive. She's a beautiful soul. And again, she's not the only one. Like, I can do that, and I'm also a very beautiful soul. I'm just joking. But how we do this exercise, when you start with the third eye reading, when you start expanding that energy, you start asking them to see colors, and you place them in the back of the head. You try on the front. If they don't see anything, you try to go on the back. Usually you start actually from the back, because statistically speaking, in those kind of concepts, people can start seeing from the back of their heads, and then you start rotating it, and you ask them to move their consciousness towards the front. And they can start seeing. We ask, do you still see the color? And they will say yes. And then we said, can you see that one? And can you tell me what it is? And then you go on and on and on until you reach like 5 colors at least. You can go up to 10, doesn't matter. If you have fun doing it, you can go to 100. But I think the child will get bored. So you try to go as fast as possible without losing the attention. And then you just go on to something a bit more complex, and you start asking them to describe the shapes. You know, you can try anything, right? So anything that is bold, big, and then you go to basically just you know, smaller font. This is the book that my daughter was able to read from cover to cover, right? And you basically turn the page and you can see this, right?
Right.
So you have like bold words like that, and she would just read. At first, you start with letters, not in that format, but you know, through different you know, practices like this. You know, you just ask them to focus on letters and tell them what it is. And so, oh, I think it's like O, and then you go on, and it could be associated with an owl if it's an O. So you have an actual image with the letter, and then you go on to the book, and then you start saying like one thumb, drumming on a drum, and they will speak like that. And so children will then start describing things. If they lose their focus, they will start reading and say, oh, I don't see. And then they will describe something, and then she will say this. She will say, oh, I can see a red drum. I said, well, no, that's not a red drum. But that's what she saw.
Oh, wow.
She saw like 2 pages. So sometimes you basically just jump, and you can see through like an X-ray vision. Because you don't know, it's hard to describe like boundaries same way as you describe objects through walls, right?
I mean, they say that some people can like put their hand on a book and like read the whole book.
Oh yeah,
reading it.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like the same concept.
Same idea. So it's amazing when you actually see it happen for real.
I bet.
You know,
and I mean, there's people doing this in India, and then there was the woman in England, right, who you got in touch with.
Yeah.
I wonder how long this has been, you know, done or experimented.
I think it's been going on for centuries, thousands of years. I think the Hindus already had the knowledge. They still have the knowledge. It's kept within gurus, and you know, they basically just pass it on. But again, I actually don't like religions because they are segregating everything. They are just, again, compartmentalizing everything. And it's all to do with profits and control and power. And if your intention is not good, and you just care about profits and making a living, then you know, it's not going to happen. And then you have the opposite sides of the erudites, the people who are so smart and so advanced and wise that they simply don't chat with anyone. They rather go into a cave and, you know, and do it for themselves. And I would say, you know what? Sod it. I do it for myself. Good luck.
Figure it out on your own.
Figure it on your own. You know, I figure it out. You're on your own. So, you know, you have 2 extremes here, but at the same time, sometimes you have people in the middle of the road when they kind of stumble across a program like this one, and you start trusting it. You want to try it, and then when it works, you think, wow, that's very powerful. And then those people who are in charge of those programs will tell you, you know, what is your intention? Is your intention good? You know, do you want to do good with this? I know that you know, some agencies would love this.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it doesn't mean that they know how to do this. They have tried it in China and Mexico and other countries, and it failed because the subjects became so powerful that they had no boundaries. They could not be chained to their desks or their rooms. They could physically teleport.
Oh, wow.
So
and you met somebody recently who's teleporting physically.
Yeah, he doesn't know how he does it, but I just had a chat with him today, and he said to me that an aluminum box showed up in his bin in his house, and he didn't have one. It just it basically appeared in his bin in his house, and he said, I don't know how this happened. I didn't have anybody coming to my house, and I don't have that brand, that box into my house, and it just appeared in my bin, like a big, those like 100 millimeters, 100 whatever roll of aluminum foil boxes. He had that in his garbage
can
inside his house.
That's crazy.
So I don't know how this happened, how this appeared here.
Does he remember everything when he teleports, or does he have he forgets?
He doesn't know. Everything? He doesn't know. And I think that this guy,
when he's doing
he's
it.
not aware when he's doing it. I just saw it.
Wow.
I just saw it for him because I connected to his consciousness the same way as I connected to his childhood. So I gave him details that only knew him had consciousness about, and I confirmed everything, or he confirmed it for me. But we just met. I only knew his first name, and he was recommended by a friend. And I just kind of shared information about his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was kind of shocked, and I gave him a lot of answers based on what his intuition told him to do, and it completely matched. So once again, he gave me certain confirmations, but I found this guy fascinating because he's able to do things that I've never been able to do. I would love to know how to do this. I mean, I've been bilocating, doing remote viewing, and that's one thing, but to physically teleport, that's something else.
Yeah.
That's the realm of quantum physics, and I would love to know how he does it.
Mm-hmm. And he's like 19 or something?
No, he's 37.
Oh, he's 37.
Yeah.
But he how long does he know he's been doing it? Like
a week ago.
Oh, it's only been happening for a week. Wow, that's fascinating.
I mean, he was plagued with sleepwalking, and since he was a child, with recurring nightmares of bears, which basically were Sasquatches who basically got in touch with him. So, and now he's actually very interested in Sasquatches and, going in touch with the forest and these sort of things. He doesn't drink, he doesn't, take drugs. He's physically fit, he's a perfectly normal guy who doesn't understand what's going on with his life. And I said, I need to document this. And I've asked him to go on an interview with him, and he agreed. So I will try to interview him. And his friend who was with him, who actually works for a massive oil company. He basically is in charge of their calendars for major events and this sort of thing. So the guy is actually kind of a business guy, and he actually agreed to go on camera. I think he's going to be agreeing to go on camera with him at the same time, so I can get confirmations of those experiences. And I will try to learn what's going on with his life, because I can connect to his consciousness, and I will be able to feel certain things.
Right.
I'll be hacking into his system.
Yeah. So, and you said that he has an affinity to the Sasquatch, right? And he's been like tracking them his whole lives, and he didn't understand why. And then
not his whole life.
Went to the northern part of Canada to.
Yeah, he basically got interested. Yeah, he got interested by the Sasquatch only like 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But more and more, like he's obsessed by it, and I was able to tell him that the bear that he was seeing as a child was not a bear but a Sasquatch. Mm-hmm. And I saw the Sasquatch, and I said to him that they got fascinated by you, like they can't explain. Like I mean, I've never seen this because I don't have much experience with the Sasquatch, but they were able to look at him thinking that's a very interesting subject as a child. Like he can do what we can do. And so I've learned something about the Sasquatch just by being in touch with him.
Right, because you experienced it when you saw.
Yeah, exactly. So once again, see, like you can see an event through someone else's eyes, like for example him as a child, and then you see a Sasquatch. And for me, when I was seeing that, was so new and not scary but different, that I automatically projected my consciousness through him into the Sasquatch consciousness to understand what they were like. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a ride, because I was able to understand how they were able to hide from people in the wild.
Because they phase out.
They phase out. They basically just completely, they could be multidimensional.
Right.
They could be physically cloaking their presence with their physical body, but they can also teleport. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They can.
So maybe he teleported into their land when he was a child, and that's how they encountered each other.
Yeah, it's possible. But somehow.
Did you see the meeting when you did that?
Yeah, I saw that meeting. He doesn't remember it though. But I saw that.
Did you see how he appeared in front of them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He teleported?
No, he didn't teleport. The Sasquatch went to see him in his bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Like they transported themselves into his bedroom, because somehow, once again, time and space for them that didn't matter. Like while he was as a child, even if he could not use that ability, they knew somehow that he could do it down the line, which he knows how, or he can do it today. And I think they kind of enhanced his gift somehow. But there was no physical implants in him. There's no etheric implants with him. It's completely pure. Like there's nothing polluting him in any way. It's so natural, right?
Yeah.
Energetically speaking, is very, very pure. He's like a virgin in terms of the the Sasquatch energy. Like he's almost like part of them, and I think he probably is, and that's why he can do what he does. I think somehow the same way as I'm an avatar of Zo's brother, he could be an avatar of a Sasquatch in their realm. Exactly. And that's how he kind of have that experience, but he still doesn't have the full recollection of his experience, so he still has to learn a great deal of things.
Are you going to encourage him to get hypnotized?
I already have. Yeah, I'm already helping him with that and trying to educate him on a few things. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing. What a story. My goodness. Wow. That's amazing, because like just you being in that Sasquatch's consciousness, like you could feel, hear, taste so many things, right? Like experience.
I felt the purity of these beings and how intelligent they were and how advanced beings they were. I had way more respect for them during that experience than I ever had before, because I could not understand them. I had no experiences with Sasquatches. Obviously, I knew about them like you do and everybody else does, but I could not relate to them. That experience made me part of them, which is a very strange feeling. And I understood way more in that experience than I would have had studying them for years.
Wow. So Stacy, just to answer your question, Stacy said, Sebastian has witnessed this, ? Or what is his plan to record these episodes? So he did a remote viewing session with this person, and he plans to interview him as well, because Sebastian also does interviews. He has a website called NSUHO, where he also interviews people on a variety of topics.
Yeah, it's probably best to rely on the YouTube channel, because my website keeps getting hacked, and it's a real bummer. I feel so down by it, because every time I'm trying to do something, there's someone who's trying to disturb the information that's already on my website, and so you can rely on YouTube, and you can see my interviews and videos on there on the NSUHO YouTube channel. Whatever happens with the website down the line would be a big mystery to me as well. But, I keep it alive for now. And hopefully we can do some more articles and these sort of things on there. But, for the time being, YouTube is the best route to go.
Okay.
But it's still under NSUHO anyway.
Okay. And so do you want to talk about your book? I know we've gone over our 2-hour time limit. How are you doing this time?
So the book, Inner Journey in Outer Space, is available on Amazon. You can purchase it currently. There's another bug with Amazon. This is my life story. That basically Amazon has the title, but it says out of print.
Yeah, that's what happened when I tried to buy it.
Right. But if you click on the title, then you'll be redirected to the back copy that you can purchase. So the paperback copy is available. And I don't know if you can just do that live and try it for yourself, but it does work that way. Amazon said they would try to fix it by Monday, but for the time being, we're now on the 14th of March and they still haven't done it. So it's been like a week. So we'll see how it goes next week.
Is there any other place where they can buy your book, where people can buy your book?
No, yes, they can go to the local library, but in my hometown, and I'm just joking. No, mostly Amazon for now. It just got published. It's independently published right now. It used to be published before through a publishing house who was more of a friend trying to help me out, and then we decided to part ways and for me to keep the royalties on the book, and I paid him a fee for his services, and that's it.
Okay.
So now it's under my own ISBN number.
How did the upside down triangle logo come about? Is that your logo?
No, that logo was seen
publishers?
on the uniform. No, it was seen on the uniform of the beings, like my star father, my star mother on the spaceship.
Oh, okay.
When I was 6 months old.
So, but you felt called to put it on the book.
Yeah, it's basically on the back of the book as well. It's it's on the cover, I believe. No, that's on the cover. So there was a triangle, and there was this symbol as well next to the triangle. It looks like what you call a menorah, something like a Jewish menorah, but it's not quite that. I think he has like 7 branches, something. I came across an interesting guy where she works for the SSP, and I know it's like genuine SSP, and it's not very good. So
it's not a blue avian.
No,
not a blue avian.
No. This guy doesn't want to go public with his story. He'd probably be killed if he did. But anyway, that's the symbol. He said to me, look, he said, you have like 3 dots in your triangle, and he said if you try to do the same thing with numbers, it kind of also relates to the numbers, mathematically speaking. So if you put like a dot on 1, he said, I don't quite know how this works, but if you have 1, you have 1 line and you have a 1 on top. 2, you've got, it's kind of stupid anyway. But I just thought, if you have this kind of example here, see, if you've got this, got 1, 2, 3, you got the 3 dots on that. I mean, it said the triangle. If you look at the swastika, the swastika symbol has 4 points, and my triangle has 3 points. The swastika, which is interesting, there's a swastika symbol because it's an old symbol from India or the Hindus, I guess.
Right.
That if you look it up on Google Images, you can see that swastika with those 4 dots inside it.
Oh, fascinating.
So symbols like that.
Symbols.
What I've been told is that those symbols are related to current religious groups. For example, with the Star of David, you have different types of symbols that also represent groups of beings that work with one another. So the Galactic Alliance with Zoe, when you appeared to me, when you said that to me, I knew obviously over time that there were certain races that were working with one another that were part of this alliance. If you have a symbol that has 4 points or 4 dots instead of 3, they are from a different group with different races.
Wow.
So that's what I've been told.
So it could be a very subtle marcation difference.
Yeah, and so those religious groups or those different societies adopt the symbols because they were taught that this is part of their race and these sort of things, and they belong to that group
like like a family crest.
Exactly.
So that's your family crest.
I guess so.
You probably have another one from France.
I do.
You should merge them.
Yeah, actually, it's part of it already. Anyway, that's what I could tell you about this and about the book.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some credentials from various people, like Paul Elder, who worked for the Monroe Institute. He's an international instructor in remote viewing. I never took his course in remote viewing, but he somehow was able to see what I was able to do when we met. And I have other people who crossed my path and experienced my abilities firsthand, who decided to write comments in my book as well.
No, myself included. I didn't write in your book, but
you didn't. No.
But I did experience stuff firsthand.
In remote viewing, yes, you did.
Yeah. And thank you for the mention in your book, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
I saw that. Thank you. That was very sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, hanging out with us past the 10 o'clock mark.
Yeah, I could talk forever. I'm
I
going
know.
to. I could do that all night long now. We should have a radio show and do it all night long
I know.
to entertain your viewers.
I have this like whole list of questions, and it's like we probably covered about half of them, so
Well, I will be able to go back on
have to
YouTube
come
tomorrow
back.
probably and answer every single question that's out there. I will. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um,
Well, I mean, there's so many other topics we haven't even, covered. So
I know. That's for another interview.
yes. So I would love to have you back on the show
Okay,
at
sounds
some
good.
point in the
I
future.
need to lower that camera. It's way too high, and I look like I'm. Can you see? I've got hair. Am I receding? No. I'm lucky that way. At least it's my hair like that has been like since I was born, and I've got pictures to prove it.
Really? Wow, you've had the same hairline your whole life.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so you're not aging.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can see the lines and everything else. That's the physical reality.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. Anyway, thank you, Sherry, for your
Yeah.
time. It was
Thank
great being on your show.
Thank you. It was so great having you. It was a lot of fun. We always laugh. Stacy said, Ricardo Gonzalez, I'm not sure who that is, also works with a symbol that is 3 dots forming a triangle, which represents galactic peace.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Ricardo Gonzalez. Can she tell you who that Ricardo Gonzalez is? Because I don't really know. Maybe I know him.
Stacy, do you know, can you share a little bit more on who Ricardo Gonzalez is?
Was he an abductee or was he part of the Galactic? No, was he part of the SSP even?
Well, there is a Gonzalez in the Corey Good story.
Oh, yeah, no, that one. No,
who was in the SSP program.
Right.
I don't know if that's who she's talking about.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he's an experiencer from Peru.
Oh, no, I don't know him. Ricardo Gonzalez. I will have to look him up. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
My experience is not unique. There are other people out there that have similar experiences or profound experiences. I met a few of them who met beings on the top of a mountain. They got lost. They should have died, and then they got teleported back to the base of the mountain. And those guys wrote books about it as well, and all of that. So, there are some life-changing experiences all over the world. It's just a matter of deciding to come forward with it and share the stories without suffering from the ridicule that surrounds those kind of stories. Nowadays, we know that the UFO reality is out there, exists. Even the most critical person nowadays can see it from what's already in the media. When they can see those footages from the Army or the Navy, they are saying, well, look, we can follow those crafts that basically defy the law of gravity on Earth, and we have no such technologies today. This is not, part of a secret military program that exists on Earth. They are always around us. They've always been around us, and we are part of them. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
On that note.
And they are disclosing more and more stuff every day. It feels like,
that's right.
Drip. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna do my little closing thing, and I would love it if you can just hang out for 2 minutes, like don't actually hang up.
Okay.
So again, thank you so much, Sebastian, for coming on the show, and we'll definitely have you on again soon. If you guys, excuse me, want to learn more about Sebastian, definitely buy his book, Inner Journey in Outer Space, because it's very detailed. Like Sebastian has like a million incredible stories. So if you like the stories you heard tonight, there's more of them in his book for sure. And you can also watch some of the interviews he's done, really fascinating interviews on NSUHO.com, or you can go to his YouTube page. And of course, he's on Facebook and Twitter as well. So there's lots of ways to find him. And next week, I just wanted to tell you, I'll probably take a break because I was only supposed to do 2 live shows a month, and now it's looking like 3 or 4. And I still have interviews to share with you from Conscious Life Expo. So next week, I'll probably release my interview of Maureen St. Germain for you guys. And then the last week of March, I'll come back with a live interview. And I'm going to be working with Eric Hunter, who's the pendulum healer guy. So that'll be really interesting too, hopefully. Hopefully for you guys. It'll be interesting for me, for sure. So that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you to the moderators in the chat room, Stacy and Dex. And yeah, everyone have a beautiful night, and I'll see you soon. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, now I just have to figure out how to turn off this live stream. Okay, good night, everyone. Bye.